Welcome back, grappling fans. In case
dramatic intro there, Hal.
In case you've been living under a rock, it was a big weekend in the world of grappling, and the Grappling Bulletin podcast once again here to bring you the recap of all the news. Myself, Hal, Chase. Our voices have held out because we did a lot of talking on Friday nights.
Yeah, it was a big night, right? We had an amazing time at the beginning of our show. Who's number one? A fantastic night for jiu-jitsu and grappling as far as the matches were concerned. And we're going to dive into all that earlier. But I think there's a topic that's at the top of everyone's mind right now, Hal. I think you know what I'm talking about.
It's unavoidable at this stage, isn't it? So the bombshell news that on Friday night, there was a physical altercation between Gordon Ryan and Galvao backstage at Who's Number One. So let's just set the scene here, right? We're not going to play the video. You've seen it before. You've probably seen it already countless times. You've seen and heard it. It was on our site and we uploaded it because, well, we can't avoid it. That is the truth, you know? While here at FloGrappling, we don't condone violence and we certainly don't want to promote violence. It is news, right? We were talking about this earlier, Chase, isn't it? It's as if Kobe Bryant had gone backstage and slapped the crap out of Michael Jordan after a match. You don't think that would be all over the news? It'd be on the front page of every newspaper across the land, right?
Sure. And, I don't think we need to get into why we posted it or not. Obviously, it's out there, and it's a huge story, right? These are two of the biggest figures in our sport, and it's, like you said, unavoidable. It happened, and we don't like it. In fact, it takes away from our show, the Who's Number One event, and it becomes a dominant story, but you can't ignore it. It's a big deal.
You can't ignore it.
But where do we go from here? That was the title of our article this morning, Grappling Bulletin, and it is a big question.
This is kind of what we've been trying to figure out, you know? First thing is that, everybody is talking about this. Everybody is talking about it. We were on Saturday. I drove up to Dallas. I went to Fight to Win, which is a great event, and we're going to break down some of the results on that later. But literally every person I met, the first thing they asked me about was about the incident. Because, of course, people have been looking forward to Gordon Ryan versus Galvao. Just not this particular Gordon versus Galvao, right?
Of course. We want to see this on the mats, and it's still very much our hope that will happen. If you watch our interview with Mo, he talks about how maybe there was some progress made there. Then the incident happened. So who knows where it stands? We really couldn't say with any accuracy. Clearly, though, we would much rather this play out in sporting fashion instead of what went down on Friday night.
Yeah, I think Chase just nailed it right there. The last thing that we want, absolute last thing that we want is for these guys to do anything that could be resulting in physical injury, that could result in, any kind of charges, or let's just say it as it is, take away from, like Chase said, the sport and accomplishments and achievements and basically tarnish the image of the sport. That is really, really important. This is a combat sport, but we want that combat to remain on the mats. And the last thing that we want is for this to escalate further, because there's a chance that, almost a given, almost a certainty that the Danaher Death Squad team and the Atos team, they will be in the same place at the same time. It's just unquestionable.
Of course. And I think it's up to the team leaders on both sides to make sure that they set the right standard for their students and not to escalate it further. I don't think that's going to happen. There's a lot of tension right now. It's raw. It's a very recent moment, and people are very passionate about what happened for obvious reasons. But I'm hoping that maybe there could be a much more peaceful resolution. Maybe there'll always be some heat there, but this is sport, and these things happen. But hopefully we can move past it. And I think that's all we really got to say for now. We can start talking about the events and, leave the drama behind us. Hopefully that's where it stays.
Yeah. That's, we're monitoring the situation. I think the best thing to know. And as soon as we're able to get more details about what could happen with that ADCC super fight, well, of course, we'll post it here. But you mentioned about how it kind of takes away from the matches, which is what we wanted to focus on, Who's Number One, because we had 7 amazing matches, including in the main event, Craig Jones versus Ronaldo Jr. And as you can see, just where is it? Right here on the side, right? Craig Jones eternally second
There it
place,
is.
right?
I got to get used to this. There it is. Boom.
Once again,
Yeah.
even though he wasn't, he was the main event. Gordon stole the show.
Yeah, it's true. A hilarious way of putting that. And, Craig even making a similar joke all week saying, he can't keep the main event. Gordon's got to butt his head in. And, he did so in pretty impressive fashion later that night. But Craig looked absolutely phenomenal in his match with Ronaldo Jr. We, of course, had a lot of questions about what Ronaldo would do that night because while he has some no-gi accolades, he hasn't faced a submission artist and submission grappler like Craig before. And it ended up playing out kind of like you might have expected, Hal.
It did. Let's play the clip because, it's one thing to talk about it, but it's another thing to show it, right? So, Craig, you used an analogy I thought was really, really good, Chase. You said that Craig was in the driver's seat from start to finish on this one.
Sure, and really it's because Ronaldo wanted to play an in-and-out game. He wanted to pass on the outside, but he let himself get dragged into an entanglement and they were still dry, which really gave Craig a nice bite on the legs. And once he was in this position, Craig even said in his post-event interview that he was going to drag this out for the next 15 minutes if he had to. He would not get out of this position, Hal, because, if Ronaldo had one chance to escape, man, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're right. The way that Craig was able to suck him in to that 50-50, you'd say 50-50, it gives both sides an opportunity to attack, but in this position, I mean, Ronaldo was just 100% on defense, right?
Yeah, and Craig, did a beautiful job of separating the hands, fighting the opposite leg before he ended up switching to the inside heel hook. It's textbook, leg lock submission tactics, and really showed that an elite level gi player just can't come in to no gi competition and expect to do that well. I mean, it's not new. That's not a new concept. We've known that for several years now, I feel like. But once again, another prime example of that fact.
Well, it's also early days in Ronaldo's career, right? He hasn't really had that many no-gi matches as a black belt. And certainly not, I would say, against anybody of the caliber of Craig Jones. And, as you said, with the heel hooks in play as well. So, maybe no surprise about the result. There was definitely a lot of intrigue in the match because people were excited to see exactly what Ronaldo had to offer. But I feel that Ronaldo was very disappointed with himself in not only the result, but of course the performance, right? Because that's one of those matches where you don't really get to show what you're capable of. And for Craig, I mean, that's about as good a win as he could hope to get.
Sure, and I think the stat was something like Ronaldo was 24-1 last year. He had an incredible run, very dominant in gi and some no gi competition. So to have a match go like that, so one-sided, is a little bit heartbreaking. But again, a lesson can be learned there for Ronaldo. He saw some things that he may have not experienced before and can take that home, work on it. That's the point of competition as well, is to improve areas where weaknesses can be exposed. So.
Talking about where do we go from here and where does Craig Jones go from here? Well, I mean, if you believe the back and forth that's going down on Instagram this afternoon, he seems that him and Gabby Garcia are talking about some kind of match.
I mean, Gabby will fight anybody. She made that very clear over the weekend, and I mean, that's an insane match. But the name that I saw popping up that could be really interesting is Felipe Pena would be a hell of a matchup for Craig Jones. I think that would be fun.
I love that match. I mean, to be honest, there's a huge list of names that I would love to see Craig go up against. For me personally, one of those big names as well would also be Kainan Duarte.
Yes.
They did compete in the Kasai Pro tournament. I believe it was back in 2019, earlier in the year, when Kainan was just on this incredible run. In 2019 for Kainan was phenomenal. He won pretty much everything. And that included getting a submission win over Craig Jones with one of the most beautiful, but at the same time, one of the dirtiest leg lock counters that we've ever seen, right?
Phenomenal bat take. Really, really nice. Yeah, there's a lot of great matches at 205 where Craig is kind of hanging out right now. You said Kainan. I wouldn't mind seeing another match with Mason Fowler. I think maybe a little bit longer time limit, a different format might really be interesting there. Kyle Bain would be fun. Ooh. Felipe Andrew. I mean, there's a ton of guys around that weight class that could really make things interesting. And Craig
Peno's the interesting one.
I like Pena the most. I mean, it's a tough match to make right now, given the way things are with the
Right.
world and Pena being in Brazil. But maybe one day that one will come to fruition there.
Man, I hope so. I'd love to see that one. Everybody's talking about, of course, Gordon and Pena, but that feels a way off, right? That feels like it's going to take a while to try and make that match. Of course, we're trying. Who's
see.
number one? We've got plenty in the mix, and like I said on Friday night, it's a short list of people willing to step up and face Gordon, and Felipe is definitely on that list, but conditions are one of those things where it takes a lot of ironing out. Craig and Felipe, though, that's a different matter. So hopefully they take that one. But amazing, and not the only really cool performance as well from Who's Number One, because we had 7 matches, and we featured a bit of everything. We had purple belts opening the show. We had some really great up and comers, sort of early in their black belt career. We had established figures such as Gio Martinez, the number 1 ranked 145-pound grappler, and a bunch of other matches. But the one that we're going to focus on right now is Performance of the Week. Because, Chase, I think it is absolutely undisputable. It is no doubt whatsoever the match of the night from Who's Number One on Friday.
Oh, you're going to let me debut?
I am.
Nachieli versus Gabi. That was so much fun. And Nachieli really, really dug deep to get the win there. It was a super close match. And I thought Gabi's jiu-jitsu looked great. She was really playing from a lot of positions we don't see her from, dropping back into guard, looking for leg locks. But Nachieli really was tough, survived the onslaught. That's Gabi's pressure. And then, of course, got that incredible back take. I think we have some video here.
Yeah, because we've cut together a highlight for this match. And the highlight is just, it goes on forever because there was so much good action. So we really want to show this because, Nachi, I mean, there's no doubt about her credentials, right? She's already a black belt world champion, both gi and no gi. However, she hasn't had she hasn't had anywhere near the same level of success no-gi that Gabi Garcia has, because Gabi Garcia is a 4-time ADCC champion, and Nachi, she went to ADCC once, and she went out first round. So she's had to, she's learned from it. She had to make a lot of adjustments, but even still, the physical problem of facing somebody like Gabi Garcia, the pressure that she brings, the intensity that she came out with, man, that is not easy to deal with. And look at these positions that Gabi was putting Nachi in. That is like the ultimate stress position.
100%, and that's Gabi's wheelhouse right there. She knows how to use her strength and size to her advantage, is not shy about doing so. But this is where I thought the match got really interesting, where we saw Gabi drop back on a leg. And Nachi actually said, I don't know if that was the first one in this highlight, but that first ankle lock that Gabi put on her really popped her ankle. But then she actually felt almost fine. It was, it's going to hurt tomorrow, but she'll make it to the rest of the match.
Well, she said that she made the decision. She's like, no, it popped already. I'm just going to keep fighting. I'm not going to tap. And she said it nicely in her post-match interview, I think. She said, where I come from, people don't tap to the footlock. All right, so...
I mean, that's a strong footlock coming on from Gabi Garcia. Props to Nachi for
But look at that. She had Gabi on her back, and these were some dangerous leg lock exchanges as well, because, Nachi's doing her best to try and torque Gabi's leg. And, you require a lot of force and a lot of leverage to try and get that rotation on Gabi's leg. But, of course, leaving her own feet out, dangerous position too. So it was interesting for me because, of course, Gabi's jiu-jitsu, she's faced a lot of criticism, and I felt like this match for Gabi, she wanted to go out, she wanted to prove to the haters, she's like, hey, I have good jiu-jitsu. She said, I can grapple. And she came out, and I'll be honest, I think I saw more jiu-jitsu from Gabi in this match than I have in the last 5 years.
Yeah, I was talking to Gabi a little bit after the show, and she mentioned that she got more positive DMs and messages from people about her performance in this match than some recent matches where she actually won. So
Amazing.
It's good to hear that because we want to showcase jiu-jitsu with Who's Number One. That's the name of the game. And so if both athletes can come away feeling like they were able to do that, then I think the format's good. And in this case, the 15-minute match was crucial.
Now, here is really the moment that sealed it in Nachi's favor, because what happened was, up until this point, it was kind of even, they were kind of pretty much even on the leg attacks and exchanges, but this moment here, where Nachi defends the heel hook, gets the back, both hooks in, flattens Garcia out, And it was about 90 seconds left in the match. And, you know, she rode out the match really well. She was obviously still full of energy. And, you know, Gabby was not fading, but definitely not as quick as she was earlier. I think that is what sealed it in the judges' eyes.
Yeah, and it's great as a viewer, in our case, commentator, to see a decisive moment like that, because you never want to see anybody robbed. And in my head, I was going back and forth. I'm like, who's actually winning this? But once the back was secured by Nachi, it was pretty clear that she had done enough and took the unanimous decision here. Really, really fun match. Super happy for Nachi to take the win. Create kind of a dynamic storyline there, because this is, of course, the rubber match.
Yeah.
And first time they met in the gi. So now Nachi leads 2-1. I know Gabby wants that match back. I've already seen her drop a comment saying, let's go for another one. So who knows what happens next. But fun match, and props to both athletes for really putting it out there.
Yeah, 100%. But I mean, in terms of you know, just Nachi's ability in weathering the storm, because Garcia was super frustrated with what she called, you know, the haters, and you know, she'd received criticism and call outs from other members of the female grappling community, and man, it felt like she took that frustration out on Nachi, because especially in the lead up to the match, it looked like Gabby had a problem with Nachi. The truth is, actually, she didn't. The truth is that she's super respectful of Nachi. Nachi hadn't said anything about Gabby. Nachi had been very respectful too, but Gabby was just so fired up from all this. You know, Nachi was the outlet. Nachi was the obstacle in front of her, and she wanted to make a point. And she came out, and I feel like even losing, Gabby still, I think, deserves a little respect for that.
Absolutely. She came out fired up, put on a great show, and Nachi really pulled off an amazing, what you could call upset, given the disparity in no-gi.
Well, she was the underdog
experience.
For sure.
Yeah, pulled off the upset and made things really exciting for everybody. So great match, and definitely deserving of performance of the week for Nash Shelley there.
100%. So moving on, we want to talk a little bit about some more women's jiu-jitsu, because Fight to Win 165 on Saturday night in Dallas, Texas. It was the second ever all-female Fight to Win card, and in the main event was Elizabeth Clay making her black belt debut. However,
kind of weird to think that, but it's true. It is true.
It is true. But however, a little bit flipping the script on what she did in 2020, because of course Liz had a series of amazing matches all through the year, every single one of them no gi. This time her black belt debut was in the gi, and she was really keen to prove that she is not just a no gi grappler.
Yeah, and it's fantastic to see, because it was her first gi performance, I believe, since 2019,
That's correct. Yeah, since Purple Belt Worlds.
So it's been a minute then, and she looked fantastic. We actually can play a clip here. We'll also see Luisa Monteiro shortly after Liz, but let's keep talking about Liz here.
Yeah.
This was a great finish, and it does show that her leg lock prowess is still very viable in the gi, as she goes belly down here, hunting for this toe hold. Some nice transitions, and Maria Malijacek is quite a good leg locker herself. So
yeah, she is. But maybe that's the downfall, because they kind of were in a little bit of a back and forth, and Maria was maybe looking for her own. But when Liz got on that toe hold, well, you can see, you know, she got a really good torque on that ankle, and Maria had no choice but to tap. You can see the hand hover there for a second, and then then it came in, and yeah, I mean, that was great. And then this is one of the other standout matches from the evening as well. You had Luisa Monteiro and Jessica Flowers, we got a little problem with the video
corruption
there.
with the clip. That's interesting.
Oh, we'll pull that. But if you want to watch the match, you can find it on FloGrappling.com. But man, Luisa, she had a really great performance, start to finish, against Jessica Flowers, because Jessica Flowers is a world champion herself. She's also much bigger than Luisa. Luisa is generally like lightweight. Maybe she goes up to middleweight sometimes, but Jessica Flower is always in the highest weight category. She's like heavyweight, super heavyweight, what is available, but she's always the biggest. And Luisa came out, and man, Luisa's jiu-jitsu was perfect. She hit a beautiful omoplata early in the match. She hit it again later, but she went for that savage toe hold, and she forced a tap out. And unfortunately, we were kind of in the mix, and we were waiting for the main event and stuff, and Luisa left a little early, but she, we spoke to her just before the match, and we exchanged some words and stuff after, and Luisa said that she would love a match with Elizabeth Clay.
Oh, I like
in the gi this time.
Okay, because they had the recent no-gi match.
Yeah, last year, they fought on Fight to Win in no-gi, and Liz was able to win that one by heel hook, right?
Yeah, and it's only fair that Louisa gets to invite her into her comfort zone, the gi, and challenge Liz there. That's a fun match. I really like that one.
Yeah, 100%. I would love to see that. So whether it's on Fight to Win or somewhere else, either way, I hope they can make that match because, Louisa is definitely one of the top women in the world. Liz is a rising star and obviously looking to make her name in the black belt division. A win, over Louisa in the gi would just further propel her name. And of course, Louisa, I'm sure, would love to settle the score in that one. But speaking of Liz Clay, let's just hear a little bit from her because, we spoke to her, we caught up with her after the main event. Let's hear what she has to say.
When is the last time you competed in the gi?
Purple belt. So 2019 Worlds, I was training for Pan Ams when COVID happened, and that was right when I got my brown. I actually only got one competition as a brown belt at all because I didn't get my brown until December or November of 2019, I think. Yeah, 2019. And then I was training for Pan Ams in 2020, and then COVID happened, and I got my black belt before I was actually able to compete as a brown belt after that.
So it's been a while since you've competed in the gi, obviously.
Yeah.
Do you like competing in the gi?
Oh, I love competing in the gi. I actually train gi at least double, if not 3 or 4 times the amount that I train no gi. I train no gi unless I have a fight coming up. I only train no gi twice a week.
So we're going to see more of you in the gi this year?
Oh, for sure. I'm already signed up for the Dallas Open at the end of the week. I'm actually postponing a trip because I want to go to Brazil this year, but I'm not going yet because I don't want to do it during Pan Am. So I have to wait till they announce the dates so then I can plan a trip over to Brazil.
Ooh, Liz Clay wants to go down to Brazil because, Liz has competed at every rank here in the United States. She's never been to Brazil. And, if you want to go and you want to search out, seek out the toughest matches in the world, a few places better to go than to South America and go to the homeland, right?
That would be fun. I hope she vlogs that trip or something because I'd love to see some of those matches. But very excited to see Liz in the gi. It really opens up a lot of different matchups for her and it creates a little variety. So that's great.
Yeah, 100%. So moving on, Prospect Watch. Now, this is a semi-regular feature here on FloGrappling. We like to shine the light on some of those rising stars of Jiu-Jitsu. And we're going to take a look at Jessa Khan, right, Chase?
Yeah, and again, this kind of makes me laugh that we're calling her a prospect still because I feel like she was a prospect at purple and then briefly at brown and now at black.
But it's because we've been following her since she's like a blue belt.
It's true,
yeah.
but it's always a big jump as you go in each level. And of course, the biggest is to black belt where you can face competitors that have years of experience at that rank instead of maybe just 1 or 2 more. So technically, still very much a prospect, and this was her debut. Let's put on the highlights. So Jessa Khan faced off with Danielle Kelly here on the prelims at Who's Number One and really demonstrated her sort of fight only for the kills, very submission-minded approach here, Hal.
Yeah, now this was definitely a great showcase of Jessa Khan's no-gi grappling skills, and we've known her more for her gi accolades because she's competed a lot. She is like a no-gi.
Look at that knee bar.
Champion.
I mean, credit to Danielle Kelly right there too. That was
very tough.
Yeah,
she fought out of some really dangerous positions. Jessa was on the attack nonstop, but Danielle had an answer for everything, even though she was often under a lot of pressure. She was able to hang in there, but Jessa threw the kitchen sink at her, man. Everything, a little bit of everything. Some great wrestling even, she had beautiful chokes. She had some lower body attacks and then, some great positional advancements. And Jessa said it, right, Chase? She said, hey, people think that I'm just a gi grappler, but I'm not.
Yeah, and you can see out here, she looked very comfortable and some brief leg lock exchanges, threw up a couple of heel hook attempts of her own that looked very good, and just more or less dominated the pacing of the match. She did give up a couple takedowns, but I do believe that was in pursuit of the guillotine.
Oh, she was timing it for
She was working on that, and of course, with submission only being the rule set here, there's no risk of points. You might as well hunt for the head if you feel comfortable there. Yeah. So yeah, she looked amazing in this matchup against someone who's very game. Danielle Kelly's fought at trials, won some matches there, fought at Fight to Win, won matches there, and a bunch of other pro shows on the East Coast on the sub-only scene over there. So for Jessa Khan to make her debut in really a pretty dominant fashion against someone like Danielle Kelly is really exciting, right? Because now the sky's the limit for her, and I'm really curious to see what she does next. Yeah,
it opens up some really good matches. And when we asked Jessa, what she was hoping for in her next in her career, because of course this is the very beginning. Just 1 year ago, she was competing on the very first Who's Number One event, February 2020, in the the gi as a brown belt. And, we were really honored to have her make her black belt debut here on Who's Number One, a no-gi match. But of course, it does open up the possibility of some really intriguing matches. And she mentioned two names, actually. I think she mentioned Grace Gundrum and also Maisa Bastos. Two very, very accomplished and very, very respected names in that division. And either of those matches for me would be amazing.
Yeah, and technically, you could say Jessa already had a black belt level match before she fought in AJP Miami, I think Grand Slam, where she faced Maisa while she was still a brown belt, Maisa being a black belt. And it was a really dynamic, exciting match. Jessa opened up with an early flying triangle that was deep. It was super tight, but Maisa showed off some grit, and her experience was able to get out, get the back, and I believe she finished that match with a choke, if not on the back. But I would love to see that one run back and maybe even no gi. So.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tons of matches there. So our prospect watch, keep an eye on Jessa Khan, because this is only the beginning, believe it or not. 19 years of age, black belt. Man, sky's the limit. So speaking of next big things, we have Brazil's next big thing. Let's take a little trip down to, the homeland of Jiu-Jitsu, because you may have heard this name before, but Mikhail Galvao. Mikhail Galvao is a brown belt, and you're probably familiar with his name because this is not the first time that he has fought and beat a black belt in competition. But we have a video of a recent event in Brazil called King BJJ, took place there in the south of Brazil. Let's roll this video. It's a 1-minute highlight, and this is a match between Galvao and a black belt called Gustavo Teles. And Gustavo was, or is, I should say, a gold medalist at the South American No-Gi Championships. And look at this. Early takedown from Galvao. Then he latches on to this, what is a kind of a weird hybrid arming guillotine, almost like a little bit like
trap.
A Peruvian as well. Right?
Yeah, that was nice.
A very unusual. You can take a better angle, a better look at this second angle right here. There's the takedown, latches on.
Oh, he's got both legs over the arms.
He has both legs over the arms, but it's an arming guillotine, and he's got the head buried in the stomach, and he gets the tap in 55 seconds.
That's beautiful. Yeah, he's been all over the place in Brazil, winning super fights every tournament he enters, and of course the IBJJF majors as well. I remember seeing him at those when he can make it up.
Oh yeah.
So definitely a person to keep an eye on if you haven't been already.
It wasn't that long ago either that he was competing in the juvenile divisions.
That's scary. It's a scary thought.
He is actually for American grapplers and American fans. Everybody knows who the Ruotolo brothers are, right? Well, Mikhail Galvao is pretty much exactly the same age and is exactly the same level and has competed against them both every step of the way since they were little kids, since they were kind of 13, 14 years of age. And his career parallels theirs in very much the same way, in that he has risen through the ranks incredibly quickly. Like we say, he is a brown belt. I think he's maybe 17 or 18 years of age. And, he has the potential that he can, well, he's already showed it now more than once that he can tap out black belts in matches. He just hasn't had maybe the same level of opportunity that the Ruotolos have to show that, because they've been competing on Who's Number One, Fight to Win, Grapple Fest, ADCC, Once the borders open back up and once international travel is possible again, I think you'll see a lot more of Mikhail Galvao on the big stage, and look for him because I think he's going to do some damage.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope he gets here as quickly as possible because he's got phenomenal jiu-jitsu, fun to watch, and it's going to be a superstar, no question, in our sport.
So before we wrap up today's show, and there was a lot to pack in there, I got to say there was a lot of good jiu-jitsu this weekend. Of course, Who's Number One, Fight to Win, and the other events that were going on there. But man, a lot to look forward to as well. Things do not stop. Now we actually have some questions here on in the comments on our live chat asking March 26th. We have got the next Who's Number One event lined up. In the main event, we have Gordon Ryan taking on the number one 185-pound grappler in the world, Wagner Hoscher. Okay? Now, this match has a little bit of heat behind it because it seems that Gordon and Wagner, well, they used to meet each other back in the day at tournaments, and it seems that Gordon is no fan of Wagner's as a result. We'll talk a little bit about that in a second, but we have had some comments asking us if that we can drop some other names or some other matches for what's coming through on the next Who's Number One, which is pretty much just 1 month, not even 1 month away, 26 days away today. But I'm not going to tell you right now, but I can tell you that we will be announcing matches for the next Who's Number One event every day this week, starting tomorrow. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You can look out for some big names competing on the next Who's Number One, right, Chase?
Yeah, the action does not stop. I'm really excited for this one. You're going to see some more rivalries collide again. Let me tell you, some teams that may have feuded in the past, well, they'll be involved. But really, it's about the jiu-jitsu, and we have some fun matches coming, and I cannot wait. I can't believe it's less than a month away, though. We just did Who's Number One.
Well, this is the idea, that the event is picking up so much momentum. Hopefully you will see events from us on a very regular basis, pretty much every month. But the next Who's Number One, March 26th, save the date, Gordon Ryan versus Wagner Hocher, a 30-minute submission-only match in the main event, and many other supporting matches featuring some big names. I just wish I could tell you. But we have more events coming through as well. March 13th is the next Fight to Win. Fight to Win versus, it's featuring Manuel Hibamar versus William Tackett. I love that match.
Two of Texas' best right now. Chris Hibamar, now based in San Antonio via Brazil, and been there a long time. He's had some fun matches lately, and William Tackett, everyone knows him for his really, really high-flying jiu-jitsu. Made a lot of waves last year in 2020, a breakout star of the year.
And it's another black versus brown belt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's weird to think that Tackett's also a brown belt, but he is technically a brown belt.
He is. And Tackett, of course, he's one of those guys that we've been talking about a lot because he's had some phenomenal success. I mean, he was our breakthrough grappler of 2020, not just ours, but of course yours as well, because the voting in the FloGrappling awards. And Hibamar, let's not forget, 2019 IBJJF no-gi black belt world champion. So two very, very talented grapplers on a collision course, and also on that card featuring Rafael Lovato Jr. An amazing match. Actually, I'm really excited for this one. Lucas Pinheiro versus Josh Cisneros.
Oh, that's a fun match.
That's a really fun match, and many more. So
that's going down in Austin, Texas, by the way. They're moving from Dallas down to Austin. So for you Austin folks, get ready. Fight to Win will be here for the next several weeks.
Yes, it will. Well, that's everything for today for the Grappling Bulletin podcast. We'll see you again, same place, same time next week. Catch you then.